Be back on.
Cool.
Welcome to the No Fear podcast and the No Fear live broadcast. I'm your host, Tony Lauer. If you're into mindset training, performance psychology, personal development, you'll dig this new format. No Fear Live is a unique broadcast, and it's different from the No Fear podcast. We decided to go live because we wanted to create the opportunity to interact with people like you all over the world, where anyone can log in and ask questions, and in some cases, you may even get invited into the show. The great thing about the live broadcast is that it's much more personal for the listener. That's you. Remember, self-defense isn't always about a confrontation with someone else. The first and most important fight is winning the one inside your head. Ta-da! Mr. Joel Evan.
That's awesome, man. That intro got me pumped up.
So just a quick thing that I told you just before we went live. Last week, or a few days ago, you posted that 40 push-up benchmark challenge.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, you know, at 63, shoulder issues, neck issues, stuff like that. I was like, and I do a lot of push-ups, but I do like tactical snacks. I'll do 5 here, 10 here, and I might do 100 in a day. And I remember on your video, you said you should be able to do 40 in a row. And I know I used to be able to do that. I at one point I tried to break the Guinness Book of World Record for one-arm push-ups.
And what is it, by the way? Do you remember?
I don't. I stopped. We haven't even introduced you yet, but that's cool. This is in this. I wasn't even 20 years old. I did 52 1/3 one-arm push-up straight with my right arm, and the new Guinness Book of World Record came out. It was something like 120 in 60 seconds.
Oh, you know, something
dark. And so I literally, like, when it came out, I was like, oh shit! And I closed the book, and I actually said to myself, I think I was about 16 years old. I said 52 is okay. 52 is good, right? But I decided not to break the Guinness Book of World Records at that point. But anyways, guys, I'm going to introduce you to Joel in a second. He's a good friend of mine. But he posted something last week, and it was epic about these to do 40 push-ups. And I will tell you this, like I wonder if I can still do that. And then I stopped because of fear. It's like the time when what if my shoulder starts to hurt me? And then what I actually did, and you'll appreciate this because it's so much about your mission now and empowering and inspiring and stuff like that. But I want everyone else listening here. Here I am, Mr. Fear Management. I decided not to do it because I didn't want to find out I couldn't do it. So I said, I rationalized, rational lie. I said, I'll try it later. And I backed away from it. And then we just had, a big webinar and a bunch of meetings before, and I'm just getting ready for the podcast. And I immediately thought of you and I went, I'm going to fucking do this now. And I just banged out 40 push-ups in a row, nice. Slowed down around 35. It was like, fuck, 36. But you got to see, and I don't know if go to Joel's Instagram after the show. Do we have Joel's Instagram here that we can pop up? Just his email, not the his at Elisa. I don't know if I see it anywhere. We'll get it up there.
Up. Yeah, she's got it up at Joel Evan Coaching. Yep, on Instagram.
So go check that out after, and go find the video because there's 2 in a row. One where you talk about it, and then you come back and you talk to all the haters. And I posted something that I thought was pretty fucking funny, about that. I said, if you find my comment, I don't know how many comments there were, but I said, of course you can do 40 push-ups. You know, he took his shirt off, so he was lighter, and there was like a 1 degree slope on the sidewalk. So of course he's going downhill, and
time of the day. It was the peak. My testosterone was peaking at the time of the day. I mean, all these,
you
reasons,
cheated.
Yeah, completely cheated.
Yeah. Joel, for people who have no clue, so I've known Joel for many, many years. He's a lifelong martial artist. He got involved in the spear system, and I'm going to let him tell a little bit of that journey. But I asked him to come on here because he's doing amazing things now that he's retired as a police officer, and he's got some amazing projects and a new book, and we'll talk about that. But give the audience the little elevator speech of who and how we know each other.
Yeah, man. So, we know each other because I am, like you said, a lifelong. I started doing martial arts when I was 18. I wish I could have done it sooner, but my parents just didn't put me in it. But once I got out of the house, quote unquote, I was like, all right, I'm going to go do it. So I started training in Kaju Kembo, which, if anybody knows that martial art, I would compare it to like Krav Maga in the sense that it's very street oriented. Now, a Kaju Kembo person is going to bastardize me and go, you can't say that. We're different. Yes, I know you're different. I'm just letting you know that for anybody who's never heard of Kaju Kembo, that's a great way to think about it. It's a hybrid martial art. So Ka stands for karate, and Kempo. Ju is for jujitsu, judo, or the Ken is for Kempo, and then the Bo is for Chinese boxing or Kung Fu. So it was founded in 1947, a very hybrid street martial art out of Hawaii, and very just brutal. It's very Kempo based. Strike first, ask questions last, right? Everything gets broken. So I got into that, and my instructor was very eclectic and was always looking for like what works. And he stumbled upon Tony Blauer's training. And he was, by the way, he retired 28 years as a correctional officer. So he was in law enforcement. He was their head DT instructor. So he knew, hey, we don't have tasers. All we have is a baton in our hands when we're in a cell. This was at the time. And so he's like, well, I know martial arts and I can defend myself, but what else? He's always, what else works? And he was exposed to your training. And so he started implementing it in the dojo with us. That's how I became exposed. 25 years old, I became an Oakland police officer. And because of that, I've always had this, just awareness of how important martial arts is and fear management and self-defense. So becoming a police officer was just another reason why to continue my knowledge. And so in 2011, I came to my first spear certification, which was a level 1. It was like a 5-day course down in Roseville. Rick Randolph was the teacher. And man, I can't remember the other guy. He was out of LA. I know he's not a Blauer coach anymore. I think he went off and did his own thing.
Yeah, let's not mention his name because
let's not mention him. Yeah, I know
he was fired from his police department, and you need to do some pretty serious stuff to get fired from your police department. And but anyways, let's go back to you.
Yeah. So anyways, it was a great course. And by the way, I remember Rick had me come up and we did like a knife demo. And I think at the time, Rick was like, hey, you're going to see coach. I mean, he might be like 50 years old. I forget it, whatever, how old. And he goes, you can hit hard. And I felt it. I felt the spear. That was like my first, you speared me actually in that class. And I've always continued with spear. I've gone to the spear symposiums and just always kept up on it over the years. Long story short, I lateraled after 6 years working in the Oakland Police Department. I lateraled to the San Francisco Police Department for 8.5 years. I worked there. I was on their DT or use of force. I was at the training division on their use of force options staff. And I remember, I think it was like 2015 or so, I went to another spear upgrade. I always kept my knowledge with spear. I just went to another refresher course. And I remember leaving it. And I just remember walking away going, I know what Tony's saying and the instructors are saying makes sense. I get it. Cognitively, it makes sense. But I've never speared anybody in my life. Like, it's great to cognitively know and read things in a book. It's another thing to actually practice it and do it. And I told my buddy, because he came with me to the class, I said, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to spear somebody. Like, I just told I primed the brain. I go, I'm going to, next incident, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even care what the situation is. I'm going to freaking spear somebody. And first, so we were at Dolores Park in San Francisco, and where we stop. I was in a plainclothes unit, and so we stop a whole bunch of Sereno gang members, and maybe there's like, dude, I don't know, 6, 7 of them. There's 3 of us. We're outnumbered, and one of the guys, we're trying to just control the tempo of the scene, and one of the guys starts getting mouthy. And I had no idea. He was intoxicated, and all of them were a little intoxicated. But he gets up. He was sitting down. He gets up and he starts like making a scene. And I just beeline towards him. And I didn't even think, I had no I didn't tell myself I was going to spear him or anything. But like somehow I didn't know what to do. My hands came up and I came outside 90 and I'm walking towards him. He doesn't expect it. Trojan horse, boom, hit him with the spear. He goes backwards into a tree. And that was the end of it. And then we handcuff him. But what's interesting about that scenario is why I think he was causing a scene is because later in that, like within the next 2 minutes, we find a gun in one of the Sereno's backpack. And so I think he was probably trying to create a distraction so that maybe the other guy would get away. And so I kind of read that my signal was going off. This is danger. We're outnumbered already. We don't have any control. No one's in handcuffs. This guy needs to get taken out quickly. And it was great. And so that, by the way, so then the reason I tell this story is because after that, I probably had like what I would call 14 spear deployments that year at San Francisco. I was just going crazy, and I can kind of talk about that as well. But I know you were asking about me, but I get so excited about this spear stuff.
No. Let's do the whole show talking about me. Keep going.
Yeah. So that just gives you a little, sneak peek into my spear journey and kind of our relationship, and just always staying on tune with the spear and the training and the methodologies. And, I still use it to this day. And long story short, though, October 2021 came, San Francisco PD gave me the ultimatum. They said, Joel, you got to get this experimental product in your body. And if you don't, you're fired. And I told them, no, I'm not going to do that. And they fired me, and I couldn't believe it. So they fired me, lost my job after almost 15 years in law enforcement, third generation. My grandfather was a San Francisco police officer. My dad was a deputy in Solano County. And then here I am working in Oakland and SF. And you know what? I took it really as a sign of, I just took it as a sign of whatever you believe in. Source, God, whatever, the universe. And I just used that as, I think this is something I had been wanting to go into, was holistic health coaching and life coaching, something I had been building up on the side prior to being fired. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go all in this. I think I've done a lot in police work that I'm very proud of, but I feel like this is a calling. I think I can reach a lot more lives doing what I'm doing, what I want to do. And so I just doubled down on my podcast, the Joel Evans Show podcast. I doubled down on that, and I just doubled down on coaching and launching my business. And that's what I've done. And I got a chance recently to fly out to you. Speaking of double down on the podcast, I got the chance to fly out to you in LA area and do a podcast with you. So that's where I'm at, man.
That was fun, where because of my aging athleticism, I think I punched you in the face during a demo or something, right? But it might have been a lip block by you, but you intentionally blocked that. It might have been my eyes. I don't know. But dude, so, I've known you for many, many years. This is the most vitality, as far as vitality, energy. You just, your eyes and your face are like clean, because I think you find, as much as you wanted to be part of the lineage and legacy of law enforcement in your family, and you did do it legitimately, I think you kind of found your calling now in a different way to help people, a different public safety element, if you will. You're serving and protecting, people. Tell us, I don't know where you want to start, because, you're an author, you're a coach, you did a whole bunch of biohacking. And I want this to be you've been on a lot of podcasts and you have your own podcast. I would like to draw out of you or give you an opportunity to talk about things you don't get to talk about to a whole different audience. What's interesting is most of my audience, as you well know, are active duty or retired. They're coming from like a martial art background, right? People are interested in the martial arts side, the self-defense side. If they're following me for more than a week, in my newsletter, I'm always talking about mental fitness and physical fitness, just not the not all the muscles. We need to have brains, and the mind navigates the body. So, because so much of my audience is public safety and stuff like that, I think it's interesting, and I was excited to have you on here, because you're doing some stuff specifically around that. Let's go backwards. We'll get to the book and the other stuff, but
let's Tarantino this.
Yeah. What's the talk to me about the first responder fathers, like this concept. What is that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, Here's the thing. I love health coaching and life coaching, but one of the things that for my journey and who I am, and I think, man, I think I'm no ego involved. I think, I'm a constant learner, and I think I'm doing pretty well in that environment in terms of just always learning and trying to be the best and, being more present. And I read all the books and all this stuff, but I will tell you that one of my biggest hardships or one of my biggest faults was really just my marriage and my family life with my two boys. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and man, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, like, again, like life coach, I've been to all the seminars, man. Tony Robbins, Tony Blauer, come on, I've been to all of them. I get it. I know what you're supposed to do, and I think I'm doing it. But man, every time I come home, things are always just not right at home. Like, it's like that's supposed to be your sanctuary. That's supposed to be like your safety zone, and it was always just not on even kilt, right? I mean, I can tell you, like, I think my wife's probably said, should we get divorced? Like, that's probably come out of her mouth at least 6 times. And thank God it didn't. And so I was on this journey of like, man, how can I be a better dad? How can I, what am I missing? Like, what am I not seeing? And so I actually even hired multiple parenting coaches to try to figure this out. And I did. And I will tell you, in the last year or so, man, my marriage is phenomenal. Now I can't even imagine, like, divorce wouldn't even be out of the question. I can't even imagine that's just impossible. And my relationship with my boys is so much better. I mean, I will tell you, my boys have spit on me, punched me, kicked me. I mean, I would have to leave the house just to I just have to walk out. And again, you like, dude, how is that possible? Like, you seem like a pretty evolved guy doing the right thing. I think I was just making unconscious decisions. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things, and we'll get into it, is I just wasn't present, man. I'm a go-getter. I'm a very driven person, and I want to crush the world and crush my goals. And I put things like financial goals, coaching business, impacting lives. What about my family life? And first responders know better than anybody, because they're low staffing right now, overtime. We work odd shifts, and we're constantly being pulled. And I felt it as a first responder myself. And then I was just missing the boat. I mean, we look at the divorce rate for first responders right now. I mean, for normal population, I think it's 50%. For them, it's 60, 70% on average, right? And when you look at suicide in our community, when I just look at it, my own personal experience, when does someone usually take their life? Usually it's over a relationship. Some kind of, the wife cheated on them, or something is going wrong in their relationship, and it causes them to do the unthinkable, and they have access to guns. And so it just makes it easier for them than some other communities. And so it's like, dude, well, but what if you could, we should be able to prevent that. And I want to let first responders know, like, dude, your marriage can be amazing. I'm living proof. Like, actually your wife, who you think is a B and this and that, like, she's actually probably making you more conscious, and is actually showing you where you need to grow. But you're so resistant to seeing that truth, you won't even investigate that. And the same thing with your kids, man. Your kids are a mirror reflection of where you need to grow. And the more that I've invited that into my life, man, so many big changes. And so I see such a huge need to launch this community that I'm starting. So probably 1st of October, first responder fathers. I've got a free Facebook group going on right now. Any guy who's a first responder, has kids, or is about to have kids, or is about to get married, or is married and wants to just be an elite dad and husband, and wants to experience what I'm telling you, like, it's possible. Like, you actually can have an amazing, thriving marriage. Hit me up, join the Facebook group for now. And then we're looking at a course and a lot of other good things starting probably 1st of October.
Very, very cool, man. Are there any one or two takeaways, epiphanies? What's going through my mind when you're describing this, and I'll tell you this. I was listening intently, because this goes for any hardcore type A, particularly guys, personality, where I wasn't a cop, but I was training first responders all the time. I was on the road hundreds of days a year. I'd come home, and I'd come into the house, and the kids would scream, "Intruder, intruder." And I go, "No, it's me, Dad. You just don't recognize me." But I feel in many ways the same thing, that, excuse me, I had invested so much in what I thought was success that, and I'm very close, with the family, but
And
there's
Tony, I
been,
gotta say, you're inspirational because I always see you posting photos of your wife saying like, "Man, love you, Mrs. B." Like, and so it's always cool to see people ahead of me in the game that are like have those thriving. It keeps me motivated. Like, cool. See, this is marriage.
yeah,
It is possible.
yeah, and so what I was bringing up is because, like, a bunch of people may not be first responders, and and then there's the idea that you figured this out after you left the job. But I want to point out here, because I can relate to this, you don't have to have been a first responder. It's just, do you want a successful marriage? Do you want to be a good parent? And you don't know where, like, my sources for whether it's, managing chronic pain from injuries of doing martial arts for 40 years, 50 years, whether it's my journey of learning, it's always eclectic. It's not like one single source has the answer. And like the expression goes, it takes a village, that we build it. One of the things with someone like Joel is, because he's a seeker and a learner and trying to continually evolve, he's read all the books that you haven't read, right? And it's something like, when I'm coaching people, I call it, you've heard the term time collapsing, just the idea of, hey, I've done this. People ask me, hey, I want to do what you do. They say, I want to be a self-defense instructor. And I go, okay, like, hey, come over to my house and you teach. No, I don't. What they see is they want the Instagram post. They don't know what the journey is. They don't want to do the work, or they don't even have any idea how much work it is to be successful at anything. So I just encourage people, just like, explore that, because you don't know where you're going to experience what I love to refer to as the accidental mentor. The accidental mentor is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. You hear something Joel says, or an idea, you try it, and it creates traction, and suddenly your life's a little bit better. So check that out. I think it's cool also that you're intelligently targeting first responders, because another area there is, it's a community that sucks the life out of you, or sorry, it's a job that sucks the life out of you. The community, the band of brothers effect, is obviously strong, but the stuff that police officers see on a daily basis, and I'm not talking about like the heinous crimes, just imagine if your job involved almost everybody lying to you every day, and then intersperse that with horrific scenes of child abuse or domestic decay, the murders, the chases, all that. When you come home, what are you sharing with your family? How is your day at work? Oh, do you, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
So you need that
There's
outlet.
nothing positive. Let's just say that.
Right. There's nothing. Hey, you should have seen this. Like, there's rarely, and there's lots of good feel good stories. But in order to say I saved somebody's life, you have to say, so this woman was in a car accident. She went through. She was dying. Here's a picture of her. But then I saved her life with this tourniquet. Your kids and your wife don't leave out that part. So I'm just, I don't want to trigger any PTSD here, but it's just this idea, like this is an important movement, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
It's a huge movement, man. And I'll tell you, the last thing I'll say is I remember, and I think a lot of guys can relate to this. And as a guy who, again, I thought I read all the books. I hired coaches. I did this. I remember my wife saying in November, she said, Joel, you need to do something. Like, this is whatever you're doing, it's clearly not working. And I just remember looking at her and I was like, I didn't say this, but I was just like, you're crazy. Like, it's not me. I've done all the work. It's your problem. The kids, they're crazy. I'm doing everything I can do. Like, what are you talking about? And she challenged me again and was like, you need to hire a coach. There's this guy, you should go check him out. And I'm like, you know what? I'll hire the coach just to prove that you are the problem, not me. And guess what, Tony? I was the problem, man. I totally was the problem. And I wasn't the leader that my family needed. And I realize now, I'm so glad that she did challenge me, because I realized I was not leading the family. That's what it was. And most guys are not. And especially first responders, we lead so much in the field. We answer everyone's freaking problem. We're problem solvers. We're doing it all the time. And when we come home, we usually give our family the bottom of it. And we just don't, we're like, I don't feel like solving this problem. I don't want to do this. I'm exhausted.
What is there? Is there one or two big takeaways you can share? Because I'm sure I know when people say, and then I heard this and I changed this. And if you want to learn that, you got to sign up for like, is there something you could like, what was the big thing? Because you think you're leading by providing.
Yep.
Right. You're like, hey, I put an alarm in the house. I got you a dog. I got food on the table here. I will go punch that guy out if I have to. I'm protecting you. But that's not what our kids and our spouse wants all the time. There's something
not at all. And I think that's the huge thing. You just hit it, is we have this preconception that, and this goes back just to like probably, or even like the 1950s, where if you look back, men worked. That's what they did. They were providers, and the women stayed home and they took care of the kids. They were nurturers. So when the guy came home and brought home the bacon, like, you did it, dude. Like, check box, you're everything I need. And the woman is cooking and cleaning. She checks off all the boxes. Everything's good. Men, if you're thinking that you can go out and kill and conquer, and that's good enough, I'm tell you, you're so wrong, and it's not enough. And so I would say a couple of things. Number one is being very intentional about your family. And again, you and I are both like alpha go-getters, driven, mission driven. We want to save the world and we want to impact people as coaches. And so when I was evaluating where my family was on the list of my hierarchy of values, they were way low, man. And I didn't even cognitively was aware of it. Sure. But my human needs was really to go after, I would probably rank my human needs in terms of growth, always wanting to learn, maybe certainty, and making sure I have money on the table, and probably significance, like me validating me that I'm doing a good job. But when it came to love and connection, way down at the bottom. I prioritized that way down at the bottom. When I started shifting that and bringing love and connection as a higher priority, that was transformational. I started to notice a lot of things change in my family, a lot. Number two is just obvious and easy, but it's this thing called presence. Like, your kids just want to see you. I was just at a men's group not too long ago. I think every single freaking dad, when we went around a circle saying like, what is it that your kid really wants? What do you realize? Every single guy was like, he just wants to be seen. He just wants to be heard. It was a father-son thing, so it was all boys. They just want to be seen. They want to know that you're connecting with them. Be freaking present. And it's hard. It's really hard. But I was just doing a live the other day, and I was just telling guys, listen, carve out 10 minutes every day of where it's just time one-on-one with your kids that you are going to devote those 10 minutes. And it seems ridiculous. You're like, come on, how is 10 minutes going to do anything? Guys, it's the compound effect. And it's 10 minutes of undivided attention. Your phone is not nearby. And you tell the kid, I'm going to do whatever it is you want to do. So the stupid games they want to play, that some of them that you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to play that. Let's do something else. I don't want to play cars.
Do it, right?
You do it, and you let them lead. And then when they get to lead these games, they love being in control. It's like one of the first times they get to be in control of something. So let them lead, let them tell you what they're going to do, and you follow. Man, I'm telling you, they will be so freaking happy. And if you just continue to do that 10 minutes every day, you could always do more, but just I have 2 kids. So I have to also, it doesn't count if we're both doing collective time. So you got to have 10 minutes individual. And right. That is a freaking game changer.
Excellent. Simple tips. Okay. Let's pivot hard.
Let's go.
How many books do you have that you've written?
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
Ignite,
yeah, just
right?
one. Just one.
Yeah, I thought it was just the one. So
working on number 2 though for the elite dads.
Right. Let's talk about this, and what inspired it. Obviously it's a little hard to read the name up there, but Ignite, the ultimate guide to holistic weight loss, feeling confident in your own body, and unlocking your full potential. Is this a how-to book? Is it a journey book? Is it a combo? What can readers expect?
Yeah, good question. So It's funny because I talk about it being a guide to holistic weight loss. And if you're looking to lose weight, for sure, pick it up. It's the whole idea is let's make health much more simple. I probably have like a PhD in health without the doctor degree. I think the last 10 years, I've just been I love this stuff, man. I just geek out on holistic health and got trained by multiple naturopaths. And I continue doing that. I'm continuing taking certifications in holistic health. But what I realize is, 9 years, my oldest is 9. So let's say 8.5 years of being a first responder when he was born, I was always in shape, never had weight loss issues. And what you see is when people come out of the academy, they were doing great then. And then what happens? Marriage, mortgages, bills, college, sport games, the kids, everything. They lose track of their health. And I never understood that because I'm like, dude, I don't really work out that much. I don't have time like all of you. I work out 10, 20 minutes a day. I eat right. And I've never had weight loss issues or weight issues. And so I wanted to make a book that was very simple for people. Like if you just did these things, like if you only had 10 minutes a day, like me, you could still be healthy. I think people think, no, it's impossible. Got to go to the gym 5 days a week, 60 minutes every day. It's not true, guys. And I even talk about some of the science, a lot of the podcast guests that are better experts than me. And I break down like what it takes to actually build muscle. Like, I mean, what does it take? You could literally build muscle in one set. As a matter of fact, if you go back to Dorian Yates, who's a famous Mr. Olympia, I think 7-time or something, he actually did that. Like I remember in Muscle Fitness reading the magazines, he only did like one set to failure. And so what you want to do is you want to trigger a stimulus that tells the muscle to grow. So if you can go to failure and fully exhaust the muscle, it's going to create that self-signaling response. So these are some of the ideas that I talk about in the book, but what I was seeing in my own coaching is that I had a lot of people coming to me for weight loss, especially during the pandemic, right? Obesity, I think 70% of people that were obese just got crushed by the pandemic. They were the ones being hospitalized. Anybody that had metabolic disease was getting crushed. July of last year, 2022, a study comes out, says 6.8% of the United States is actually metabolically healthy. That's a freaking travesty, man. Are you kidding me? And a couple of years prior to that, it was like 22%. So it seems to be getting worse based on some of these new studies. And so I thought, I want to create something for people to really just make it simple and tangible. And like, how do we get over some of the big hurdles that people are facing? Addictions, cravings. I talk all about that. Like, how do you get through that? You'll love that too. That chapter talks about dopamine. You and I are very fond of some of the neurotransmitters and stuff and how it relates to the brain. But really, this book is more than just weight loss. It talks about, you could use it as a book to just get to the next level in your life, career, marriage, because the first 2 chapters are all about what? Mindset. All of the clients that I would do these long 60-minute consultations with folks. I'd say, hey, listen, tell me what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest barrier? Why are you not losing weight? And you probably tried everything under the sun. Like, what's not working for you? And no one would tell me, Tony, oh, you know what? It's just because I didn't exercise enough, or, I just need to eat healthier. You know what they'd say? They would say, I'm just not committed. I'm not consistent. And these are all mindset issues. And so the first 2 chapters of the book are all about mindset, clarity, vision, visualization. Then I talk about things like detox, which I think nobody's doing, and people need to really be thinking about it, because I talk about it in the book, but you're being bombarded by 86,000 to, I think now it's like 144,000 man-made toxins every year. I didn't make this number up. Your EPA did. Your EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the agency that's supposed to protect you, go to their website right now. They'll tell you. So who has to filter out those toxins? Your liver. And so I think we need to be doing regular detoxes. I do detoxes every quarter, every 3 months. I do a 7-day detox. Very simple to do too. It's nothing crazy. Everybody can do it. And so I talk about detox, the importance of detox in the book. Of course, I'll talk about nutrition. I talk about exercise. And like I said, making it simple, 10, 20 minutes a day. Can you do that? If you can, you're going to live longer and feel great. And then the last chapter, I get into sleep, recovery, stress, and execution and prioritization. And a lot of people get stuck on that. There are people that, as James Clear talks about, who wrote Atomic Habits, he says a lot of people like to be in motion because it feels good. It feels good when we're in motion. Feels like things are happening. But if I ask you, like, what did you actually do today? You'd be like, nothing. I didn't get much done. How many clients did you sign up today? 0. But I did all this other stuff. Right. So there's a difference between feeling like you're in motion and actually taking action. And so that's why that whole last chapter is about that.
I dig that. While you were talking about that, I was looking at your your mission statement. I'm going to pop it up here, and I'll give everyone a chance to read that, but I'll read it for everyone. If some of you are on audio, not watching video, this is Joel's mission statement. My mission is to end human suffering and disease and to empower my clients through optimal health. Because when you're healthier, you feel more confident, more joyful, more vibrant, and you go out and impact the world in a bigger way. And I'll settle for nothing less. It's pretty strong. It's pretty powerful. It's also reminds me of, and you've heard my story. I don't remember when I was 20 years old, I had a venture capital ask me what I wanted to do. And I said, I wanted to make the world safer. And he looked at me and he said, don't you think that's a little grandiose? So I read this and the same thing. I could see this guy sitting there. I get this, but I could see anyone going, Joel, who the fuck do you think you are? You're going to end human suffering and disease. And let's pretend I'm that venture capitalist. When you came in, you said, hey man, I got this, and it's not a drug that you want. It's education that you want for people. It's a lifestyle change. So for people out there that and this is a little bit of what he's talking about in mindset, folks, is that if you read that and you go, yeah, and human, and you see that it is grandiose, then you're not committed, right? You're, just to hear, I mean, last week, my wife grabbed all the plastic shit out of the kitchen and went totally replaced it with glass and just said, she had read something about plastic particles and shit in our bodies, and it's really disgusting what's gone on in the world. And you look at, let's say, there's obese people all over the world, but there's food that you can't get in Europe that every kid gets when they're as soon as they're born. Pretty much everything is just synthetic here. And but do a rant on that, but go back to the mission. Somebody says to you, because it looks like you're trying to save the world, and what would you say to somebody who goes like how are you going to do that, man? Because that's what I was told in 1980. How are you going to make the world safer? And I had a plan, and here I am. But same question for you. How the hell are you going to do that?
You know what? Here's the truth about the matter. It's all about small wins, man. One of my mentors said, inch by inch is a cinch and yard by yard is hard. And so when you think about what you're end human suffering, am I going to end everybody? No, that's impossible. But I know the suffering that I suffered internally, my own fears, my own crap. If I can just change one life, then I've already won. I've already won. And I think as coaches too, we get too much in our heads of I had a bad month, or I posted all these things and I didn't go viral like I went last month or whatever. And you can be live and doing all these things and you got no interaction. And you're like, man, hello, knock knock. Is anybody watching? Right. Is anybody listening? And you even start to doubt yourself. And I did a live video just the other day, and a friend hit me up on a text, a voice audio text, and sent me a 2-minute long text just saying, dude, that was so amazing. Thank you. I'm going to implement the things you said right now into my family life. And it just reminded me, and this too. It's as coaches, you get down on yourself, but it's you almost have to reflect, because you forget how many lives you do touch when you just keep showing up. You forget how powerful you are. I'm sure you've got so many stories where someone's like, man, I listened to your No Fear or the mental cognition, or I can't attend to one of your seminars, and I just want to tell you, some dude tried to rape me, or someone tried to jump me, and it didn't happen because and you're just thinking, man, you might be listening to, you might be teaching to 30 slap, I don't know if I can say the word slap, kind of idiot cops with their head up their ass. What's Tony Blauer going to teach me? And you're just thinking this is a terrible class. And then someone walks up to you and is like, hey coach, I was paying attention because you changed my life. And so that's what I always just get juiced about, man, because will I stop everybody's human suffering? Of course not. But I know I can change one life. And if I can change one, I can change two. And that's going to go from hundreds to thousands. And honestly, right now too, this, maybe in 1980 for this venture capitalist, that was far-fetched. But now with the internet and everything we've got going, you literally can change the freaking world. And with algorithms, you can reach all kinds of people. So that's just a dumb remark now. And you just think like, well, yeah,
Right.
based on his world, his view, landscape of what the world is, you're right, Tony, you can't change the world. Well, he didn't know what was going to happen the next 20 years. Right.
Right.
So,
40.
40. I can't do
Right.
that.
But guys, I kind of put Joel on the spot there. He's no idea what I'm going to say or ask him, but you need to have a personal mission. And when I'm coaching people, one of the things I talked about, if we get into kind of life habits and mindset, is this idea of being able to distinguish between a vision and a mission, that the vision is this grandiose, audacious thing where here's a counterintuitive thing. And I've said it a couple of times, but not a lot. I have all of my emotional, psychological, and materialistic success is a direct result of other people's suffering. Now, I've never said that like that, but listen to it. If there weren't fear and violence, what does Tony Blauer's company do? Like, my main source of revenue is to law enforcement and military because there's evil people and violence. And I've said this out loud multiple times. I would love to wake up tomorrow and see a headline like, Japan surrenders, like a headline that says, no more violence. As of last night, there's no more violence. And guess what, Joel, and everyone listening to this, my company, the division that teaches the Spear system, would have to close. And I'd be fucking happy with that because I abhor violence. Violence scares me, which is why I study fear. Violence disgusts me, which is why I'm good at understanding it, managing it. And it's been my life's work to make people safer all over the world. Can I do it? Impossible. But, and this is why I brought this up, is your mission statement is my mission statement from 40 years ago. And there's this audacious vision, because guess what? I know you well enough as a human. If tomorrow you woke up and all disease and suffering was done, would you figure out something else to do? Because your book you'd sell zero. Nobody would need it anymore. You know what I mean? It was like,
yep.
we would still figure out a way to be there for our family, make sure that they're safe, make sure that they're eating. And guess what? If all violence was gone, there still would be fear. So anyways.
The world is abundant. And like you said, I mean, we're both creators. So it's like, we're just going to go create something else, something new, something else that's impactful. None of that matters. It's like people talking about AI right now. They're so worried about AI. I'm like, who cares? Like, you know what? You know what's not going to replace AI ever? Human connection. And like, we need that, man. We thrive on that, and that'll never change.
Although I'm ordering this robot girl to just hang out with me and just.
I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast. Like, that is not far from around the corner, from what I understand. And apparently, the guy was saying, like, yeah, it's supposed to feel very real and all this stuff. I'm like, that's cool, but still, it'll never replace the real.
And unfortunately, there's, we saw, and kudos for you for quitting a job that was part of a legacy, a family, like a heritage in the family, and standing up for yourself when you did that. But what we discovered in the last few years is critical thinking is on the decline, just like obesity is on the upswing, and that's a super scary thing there, man. And you've also been very, if you guys go follow Joel, because he's very eclectic in what he posts, from getting on talk shows, being very, very direct about politics and this stuff, borderline fringe shit that can get him canceled again. And so kudos to you. But underneath it all is a guy who, in the back of his head, loved martial arts, loved working out, loved mindset, to the point that he didn't realize his obsession with that stuff was pushing him further and further away from his family, and caught that in time, figured out that, how do you have it all? How do you have it all? And I think that's really part of what Ignite's about, and certainly what some of the conversations will be like in the group that you're starting. Are there some, and I always ask my guests on my show this, we're going to get off, and then in like 5 minutes, you're going to go, oh shit, I wish he asked me about this. Like, what's the one thing you've never talked about that you want to talk about, or you just wish somebody would ask you? Is there, and it might be a complete pivot, but is there something in what's going on now that you really want to share with people, or something I didn't ask you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think if you had asked me a year ago, I think I would have said I would have said, man, my marriage is not ideal, man, but you look great. You're doing this thing on Instagram and you're helping all these people. Yeah, well, my marriage and my family life, my relationship with my boys sucks. So I think that'd be something I'd really push on. But I think we definitely covered that. What would I say? I think, here's the thing that I want people, and I think everybody knows this, and again, they cognitively know this, but I really want to stress this for all your listeners and the people here, because here's something that I learned throughout the pandemic and losing my job. And when it was going down in SF, I was very empathetic to the guys. There was hundreds of us, 300 of us had filed for religious exemptions, and they got denied. And we were, this is a group of people that were making $200,000 a year. And now within a month, SFPD says, if you don't get this, you're fired. And so, man, you want to talk about the fear spike? You want to talk about being in a fear loop? I had a month to figure out what I was going to do with my life. In my heart, I knew I was like, I ain't going to do this. Like, this is crazy. And actually, I don't even think they're going to fire me, because legally they can't. Like, they made up a whole bunch of crap. So I just felt very confident. But I also went down the pros, the cons, like, what am I really scared of? What am I going to lose? Because I couldn't figure it out. I had to get this crap out of me. And what I realized was I was going to lose all my money. And that was really what I was fearful about. Like, I'm going to lose my money. How am I going to provide for my family? We just bought a new house. How am I going to do that? I'm the only one that works. My wife doesn't work. And I realized that's it. Like, that's all you're scared about? Like, dude, you're going to have your health. Your family will still love you. You have your soul. Like, they can't take that away from you. And that empowered me to just be like, okay, let's go. Let's effing go, because I'm not scared anymore. I realized the only thing I was truly scared about, it felt like a lot of things were scary, but it was really only one thing, just money. And I'm like, dude, I can get a job anywhere. I can go back and live with my mom if I had to get on my feet. Like, I know how to make money now. It's not a big deal. And I only say that because there were so many guys in my little chat group who were like, yeah, we're not going to get this. And then at the end of the day, they were like, bro, I got to get it. I got a mortgage. I got a family. And some people will tell me, well, you know what, Joel, it was easy for you because you had this coaching business you were building on the side. That's total BS, man. Okay. It's total BS. I have like $90K in credit card debt. So please don't tell me about how it was such an easy choice for me. No, it was not. I was just building this thing, guys. So don't tell me about it was easy. And it really reminds me of what I remember from a long time ago at a seminar in San Diego. You said, this was the time you said, it's a choiceless choice. And I had a choiceless choice to make. Like, there was only one choice for me. And what was that going to be? And I want people to understand this, because yes, everybody is in the fear loop. And right now they're talking about lockdowns and masks again. And now I'm not so empathetic. I got to be honest. I'm not so empathetic, because you know what? I look back, and if people were courageous back then and took action and said, we aren't going to do this collectively, we're united, and they can't stop that. LA, I just want to give the example. LAPD, they had 2,000 cops filed religious exemptions. LA is just as bad as San Francisco. And you know what? They didn't enforce mandates on the cops. I know for a fact, because I have friends there. And why didn't they enforce it? Because that's 20% of their force they're going to lose like that. The only reason they did it in San Francisco is because they knew they could push us around. And so here we go. Lockdowns are coming. Masks are coming again, they say, part 2. My question is, are you going to stand up? Because I hear a lot of talk. Oh, yeah. Do not comply, bro. Do not do. You say all these things on Instagram and social media and with your family. Yeah, I would never do that. But then you go out and get a fake V card, or you go out and get, you go out and you wear your mask. to go into stores, you're basically complying. And so I would just stress people, and I love it. And I always quote you, you know, fear is contagious, but so is courage. And it only takes one person. And when one person did it, we can start a movement and galvanize people. And I always like to talk about Rosa Parks too. Look at her. She was a simple seamstress. She wasn't a politician. She wasn't a leader. She wasn't a celebrity. She was nobody. She started a freaking movement. She changed laws. And I think that is what I would tell people going into this next pandemic or whatever it is in their life. Choose courage. We talk about it. Choose courage, man.
Dude, that was heavy, and it made me think about a bunch of things, which I don't even know if I want to bring up, because my mom passed away because of the V during, and she lived in Canada, and I had to say goodbye to her on FaceTime because and I've got family going, you got to get it, you got to get it. And people saying, you know, I wouldn't entertain anything. And because I'm not complying, you know, I'm just, and it was fucking hard because everyone's there in the hospital and all of them are going, you didn't comply and now you're not here. And I'm like, I'm glad you told the story about you deciding why you're going to quit. Because what you did is, after all the soul searching and putting it all on paper, had they said to you, if you don't do this, you're going to be fired, but we'll still pay you $200,000 a year. You just can't work for us. You'd have immediately said, really? Where do I sign? Right? You know,
Yeah.
Cool. So when it comes down to it, like, it's what is our integrity worth? What is our honor worth? What is our, you know, and you know, if you're for sale for money, that's a scary thing. And that's some deep soul searching, because there's so much evidence out, man, that this was, even if what started the whole thing, guys, and obviously we're being a little cryptic because AI picks up language and lingo.
As a podcaster who's been banned, you can tell I know what I'm doing when I talk about the product.
You know, but it's nuts. Even if it was an accident, and there's a lot of evidence showing who owned patents and the military this and for like stuff from 2017, 3 years before here, you know, they're working on stuff. Even if it was an accident, it was then manipulated and exploited to become a big, you know, global experiment on how fast can we get the 2030 agenda and have, you know, a digital currency and all of this stuff. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what are we, 52-0 now? You know, something
something like that. Yeah.
But we got a lot of really dumb people making important decisions about our lives, what we eat, where we can go, who we can see. And I think this conversation has, you know, we've talked about a bunch of things, but one of the messages here is you need to be selfish about protecting yourself and your family. And that includes your emotional, psychological fitness, your physical fitness, including what you're talking about, the cleanses and purifying. You don't know what we do things, we eat as much organic and clean as possible. We've got a very expensive water filter in the house. Go bring over a specialist, like a legit, not a scammer, and have your water tested that you're drinking. It's insane what's in our shit. Go look at the ingredients of ketchup in Europe, you know, like, or some of the other, I don't know if ketchup's a good example, but just some of the stuff like that they put here that's just okay from the FDA and the EPA and all that stuff. It's insane. So, but the journey of this conversation and ending on this is we need to be strong. And then if you're a strong individual and a strong family, we can be strong in community, and we can do the right thing, because there's a lot of nefarious shenanigans afoot, right? Right now. And you do. I also love that. Again, your page is so eclectic. Elisa, pop up the Instagram page again, please. Um, uh, because you just did one recently about the efficacy of masks, and
Yeah.
so you'll go from, hey, do some push-ups, to, hey, you trolls, check this out, to efficacy of masks, to whatever. But guys, go check all that stuff out. uh, Dude, um, what else can we talk about?
Anything. I mean, I'll tell you what, whatever if you want to talk about self-defense, I love jamming. I mean, I never jam out on podcasts about that or any police stuff. If anything you want to ask me about, I don't talk too much about police stuff because people always think of me now as Mr. Natural Health or the father thing,
Right.
which I love. But if you want to geek out a little bit on police work or,
Well, there are a couple of videos that you sent me. This is like, I want to be careful about this because I don't want to ever think that violence is cavalier and this is fun and check this out. But one of the things that we try to do, and this is going back to the 80s. In the 80s, we were talking about de-escalation, Trojan horse, nonviolent postures. That's almost 40 years before. And for those of you on the call who are in law enforcement or public safety, optics on you are stronger than ever, more critical than ever. Challenge, everything you do is challenged now. But because of those optics, now everything's de-escalation. You do everything de-escalation. At the end of the day, our whole Trojan horse nonviolent posture, and the idea that the SPEAR system, because it's connected to neurobiology and physiology, and therefore kinesiology, and the fact that it's psychology that triggers the startle flinch. In other words, situational awareness is a conscious cognitive skill. If you're unconscious and I punch you, I'm going to hit you. If you don't know what to look for or you're distracted, I'm still going to hit you. So it's the psychology of threat management that triggers the startle response. And so there's one incident, and again, not being cavalier, we had the body cam of it from not just you, but also people there, where Joel was involved in an altercation with an individual who was getting ready to sucker punch him, right? He took his scarf off and he's going to wrap it. I guess he just watched a Van Damme movie where they wrap your hands with it. But
I've never had I have never had anything like that happen in my life. I was just blown away. And, speaking of psychology, it was a low priority call. Like, and again, it was my Friday. I was supposed to be getting off soon. I had a recruit with me. So he was a brand new cop, didn't know what he was doing really. And we go to this call of a homeless guy. He's just, can you move him along, basically, kind of thing. But it was a little bit higher priority because earlier in the evening, he was waving a stick around or something. All right, no big deal. We'll just go tell him to move. And man, we get there and I'm expecting just a normal routine thing. Hey man, do you mind moving? Sure. No problem, officer. I'll move. He didn't do that. Instead, he immediately, as soon as my recruit said hi, he said, "What the F do you want? Back the F up. And what, you got a problem?" And I'm like, "Whoa, easy. Like, let's just take it easy. Like, hi, how are you?" Didn't matter. And then as soon as I kind of walk over to him, nonviolent posture, he starts rapping, takes his scarf off, starts rapping. He goes, "You got an effing problem?" And I'm like, "Hey man, I got no problem. Let's just talk." And I could tell all I was thinking the entire time is, I'm going to get sucker punch. I'm going to get sucker punch. I'm going to get sucker punch. And so I'm like, I gotta close that distance. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? I'm thinking in my head. So I'm doing the nonviolent posture, just kind of hands out like, hey, let's just take it easy. Let's just talk about this. And as soon as he got that last kind of like hand wrapped, I just closed the distance, kind of charged him, threw up the spear, finger splayed, because I figured even if he throws the punch, I'm going to block it. Maybe I'll take some of it, but I'm going to diminish a lot of it. And he was just so thrown off by it. Yeah. He didn't even have time. He goes flying back, just flies back, loses balance off the sidewalk. And then he struggles, but we're able to handcuff him. And I end up getting a complaint like 3 months later. Some on viewer, I don't know if they I don't think they recorded it, but they made a complaint. They said this officer attacked a homeless man for absolutely no freaking reason. And to their untrained eye, they could not hear what he was saying. They did not pick up on the fact that he was wrapping his hands and telling me he was going to F me up. They didn't see any of that. All they saw was me deliver the first punch, quote unquote.
Right.
And it was great because my police report was dialed in, just perfect. Graham versus Connor, everything's just nicely, and just really wrapped up really nice. And I said, he did this, he did that based on his speed, aggressiveness, proximity. I used my forearm to strike him. My forearm. That is it. And even the investigator was just looking at me. He goes, dude, you could have used your baton. You were capable of using intermediate force. I'm like, oh, I know. And then he's like, well, but why didn't you? And I had a lot of officers go, why didn't you use intermediate force? It was totally justified. You could have used your baton. And I'm like, I just told him, I don't know. This is where I'm at right now. My evolution as a younger cop, I guarantee you, I probably would have. The fear spike would have hit me and I would have resulted to that because I would have felt safe with that. But I felt comfortable. That's kind of what I tell people. And it wasn't cavalier, like, oh, I like to use my hands. I just think I evolved as an officer and as a fighter, if you will, or maybe just like psychologically, everything. And I felt comfortable in that zone and I didn't want to get hit. That was it. I didn't want to get hit. I wanted to close that distance. And by the way, and it worked just marvelously because again, the use of force investigator was like, you could have used so much more force and all you used was a freaking forearm. I'm like, yep.
Well, and that's the whole point. Whether you're law enforcement, any faction of public safety, or even, most of the world is very litigious now. So if you've never trained with us and you're thinking about that, that's a whole science and psychology of a nonviolent posture of whether it's the arms crossed, half negotiator, full negotiator, talking somebody down. There's a science and psychology to my fast twitch muscle fibers are activated because I'm pumping the air going, okay, stay calm. This movement, if he preemptively moves at me, that'll trigger the startle flinch, but I'm now already 3/4 of the way there deploying the biological airbag. So it works if the threat in front of you moves first. And if you decide, what Joel did is he decided to move preemptively because he knows what's coming. The guy's threatening him. He's wrapping his hands with his scarf. Clearly he's going to punch me. He's using that as a wrap, like a boxer's wrap. And he moves in, choosing a less lethal or a less aggressive level of force, which serves him and serves us, because in the totality of the circumstances, whether you're a cop or a citizen, someone's going to say, why did you do that? Right. And so we've thought about all of that, and it's a beautiful Trojan horse. It gives you the ability to verbally de-escalate, which should be your moral, ethical, legal, first choice. But in the same moment there, if you realize this isn't working, I need to move now, you're already preloaded here. We got a question from overseas from Michael. I'm going to pop it up and we'll just do this one and then we'll start to wind this down because we're already over an hour here, which is amazing. That flew by. But Michael asks this. Talk about older generation. What, with their limited physical ability to protect themselves, can they do to be relevant? And I'm going to let you, lifelong martial artist, but also with respect to the, what you talked about, you're going to put a black square up on your Instagram, or you're going to put a Ukrainian flag up on your Instagram. What are you going to do when they say, hey, this is what's happening next? So what's your answer? How do you reply to Michael?
Let's talk about the older generation with their limited physical ability to protect. How can it be relevant? That's a great question. And again, and I know you know this, Tony, and I think you've helped me develop that acuity to when people ask me certain questions. And now I get like super annoyed, and I'll give you an example, and this will tie into Michael's question. But, I was with a group of people and they're like, hey, Joel, like, how should I stand when I'm walking in a crowd with my kids? And just like, dude, like that's the wrong question to ask. Like, and I'm sure you feel that. I'm just like, the old Joel would have said, oh, well, stand in, you should be in a diamond formation, or whatever. Like if an active shooter goes out, you want to be. And I'm like, None of that. I see it now. I see it now as a martial artist, as someone who's trained in traditional martial arts, someone who's fought in, boxing matches and actual fights, someone who, has been in street fights, someone who's been a police officer and used spear and everything else. I've seen what works and like what doesn't. And I'm just like, dude, you're asking the wrong freaking question. Like, none of that freaking matters. If you can't even modulate fear or your own psychology about like what you're going to do in the event, I don't care where you freaking stand. And so I was telling people about your work. I was like, dude, you should do this first. Sometimes these guys, and I get it, they want to go do some sexy shooting course because that seems really sexy. I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm just saying none of that even freaking matters if you can't weather the fear spike. And a lot of people tell me, and I've seen it in training as a trainer for 3-4 years up at the academy, and then my own personal experience in law enforcement. I've seen all the toughest guys. I've seen guys tell me, "Oh yeah, bro, in this situation, I would have never let that guy do this." And then when a real situation comes up, how come you didn't do anything? I just saw you get your butt kicked. Well, I thought you were really, really tough. So again, people talk a good game, but I think you've got to understand what I've learned from you too. Is just you've got to understand the psychology of the fight game more so. That's so much more important and foundational. Once you've mastered that, then go out and learn jiu-jitsu or Kajikembo or Krav Maga. Go out and do that stuff. So I just wanted to say that because I think that's also really, really relevant to your audience and just the people that follow you and just are in this cadre of people that we're speaking about. Now, in terms of the people that are the older generation that's looking to protect themselves, well, I think I just nailed it. I think I just nailed the question. Is you'd be surprised, but you'd be better off doing a lot of mental fitness and activating that reticular activating system and priming your brain, forming mental blueprints and thinking about what would I do in this situation. That's something as police officers we would always do in the car when we were bored. We'd play the what if game. What if this happens? What if that happens? And starting to make little mental notes of what you're going to do. I'll tell you a quick story, and it actually is relevant to this, and it ties in with spear and everything that we're talking. And Michael's question we did a drill at the police academy, and we started stressing passenger side approaches. And so SFPD prior to that was so just, nope, you've got to do a driver side approach, bro. Got to do it. Got to do it. And if you ask them why do you do a driver side approach? The answer is because we've always done it that way. I would hear some people say, well, because then if the guy tries to bail, I can push him back in the car. I'm like, that's cool. That's actually a good reason. But guess what? I don't care. He can bail from the car. I'll just set a perimeter and I'll find him later. My safety, I would rather go passenger side and maximize safety. And it's just proven. We can talk about the force science behind it, but it's been proven to be safer. So why would you not do it? And I get all the kickback, and it's just people's egos and not being able to figure out like, maybe there's a better way. Change is tough. I get it. And in the law enforcement community, it's one of the hardest things to do. And so guys were super resistant. So we did this quick training, had guys make a driver side approach. And I would say out of 50 people we ran this training through, as the gun came out the window towards the officer, I was the bad guy. As the gun came out the window and I was going to shoot him, everybody ran backwards and got nailed with bullets. I just blew them up. They all died. One sergeant, guess what he did? He never took a spear class in his life, had no idea, never even had this situation happen to him. One sergeant reached out, startled, flinch, grabs the gun. He beats it. He beats the scenario. He wins. Imagine that. And when we debriefed him, we said, "Hey, Sarge, how did you come up with that? The trainer and I knew like that was the correct response, but like no one's done this. How did you know to do that?" And he said, "Well, I had been planning in my mind and in my brain. I went over this scenario multiple times. What if this happens? What would I do?" He had a mental blueprint of where he was going to go when that situation came up. And so he acted on it. He never practiced it a day in his life. It was all mental. And so I have to say that, and it seems silly. And I know you want me to tell you, go out and do Krav Maga and go do jiu-jitsu. I can't. You should do all those things. Whatever makes you happy, do them. But you'd be surprised. And I just read another recent study about visualization and just how people that visualize, they almost have the same amount of accuracy when it comes to visualization as the real training. So can't recommend that enough, especially if you're physically limited. And then the last thing I would say to Michael is just start small, man. Everybody's always trying to crush the world and go out and do the most. It's just you got to start. You got to start small and build up some wins, and start with one push-up, then do two, then do three, then do four. That's how you start to build up that physical ability. I hope that answers that question. If he wants to dive deeper, we can. But
Yeah, let me piggyback on that. This was sent to me by a buddy of mine. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's a tier 1 operator for one of our military verticals, and he sent me this. And I don't know if where's my camera? Right here. Can you see?
it's a baby. It's a
Yeah,
baby.
the Judy wrote validates the whole system. It's a picture of a baby, startle flinch, spear form. And, we always talk about this. And so let me add this to Michael's question. And Michael trains and gets it all. I think he's just trying to provoke an intelligent conversation for people. As we grow up and age, we are all aging athletes. I always like to remind us, our capacity at some point starts to, I don't want to use the word wane or whatever, because in many ways I can't move like I did when I was 50 or 40 or 30, but I also feel I'm much meaner, in some ways mentally faster, and therefore more dangerous as a 60-year-old, even because I might even understand and, much to my chagrin, acknowledge some of the limitations. I got to go. I always tell people, like, violence loves speed. The way you compete with the speed of violence is by improving your mind speed, not your kicking, blocking, striking speed. And a lot of people screw that up. You need to have effective situational awareness, which means you have to have thought about, like, potential scenarios. If you analyze those scenarios, you will get a fear spike because you will come across things where you go, I don't know what I would do there. That would inspire you to do more research, and then that's more training or more visualization. And you learn to manage fear. And the biggest thing with our No Fear program, and if you're listening to this and you haven't invested in the No Fear program, spend the money. It is life-changing. Because I asked this in a call I had early this morning, when's the last time you were physically beaten up? But when's the last time you mentally beat yourself up? When's the last time you were mentally beaten up by what's going on in society, where you felt angry or depressed about what's going on, and that energy was contagious to you the rest of the day, or contagious to people around you? So if you can't clear your fear, like clearing a stovepipe and a pistol, your weapon isn't operating the way you need it. So, to piggyback on Joel's deep answer and Michael's question, is what is limited physical ability? I have a buddy of mine who had a very unfortunate accident and ended up getting paralyzed. And he can do pull-ups hanging with his wheelchair hanging from him. And under his wheelchair seat is a Glock. And he trains. And he brought me into his gym to do a self-defense seminar. And he's there. He goes, this sucks that I'm paralyzed, but I'm still going to be, as Jordan Peterson likes to say, dangerous, but have it under control. I'm not going to be harmless. And so that's what we need to do, is figure out, how not to be harmless and be able to assert ourselves, whether it's a Rosa Parks, right? Or whether it's any one of a number of courageous people that we look at and we go, I wonder if we'd have had that courage back then. A lot of things, I don't want to say it here, but a lot of people ask, how did the Holocaust happen? And I think we know exactly how the Holocaust happened, right? You got one person who says this. I saw a really great, I don't know if I can find it real quick. I'll show you guys this. I didn't pop this up here. This is the a bigger picture of it. But if you're going to learn a practical self-defense system, why not have it be based on the central nervous system? So it's kind of interesting. Let me see if I can do this.
Kind of important.
Joel, talk about something for a second, because I'm going to try and
actually, I'm going to talk to you about the Holocaust, because you just brought up something really interesting. And I was just in Arizona doing a speech to a whole bunch of natural practitioners, and I was talking about this exact same thing that you just brought up. How could that happen? And now we know, if you're aware of what happened with lockdowns and everything, you can see what happened. But I started just noticing the importance of language. And it's interesting, the more I did some research, the German soldiers actually had a language, a type of slang they would talk, and it was called Amtssprache. And what that translated to loosely was office talk or bureaucratese. And so when anybody would ask them, so, hey, why are you doing this? Why are we all going to the incinerators? Why is this happening? Their answer was superior's orders. It's the law. I don't know. I have to. Just following the boss. How often do we do that in our own life, where we use verbiage like, I have to. I hit my kid because he was running in the street. I'm just doing it because of the mandates. I saw officers getting ready to do the same thing in Oakland and San Francisco when they were getting ready to start citing people for not upholding some of these restrictions. And guess what? The officers were like, "Oh, sure, we're glad to do that. Are we getting paid overtime?" Like, it's just crazy. And when you're the officer, aka the Gestapo, it's very easy to be like, well, it's okay for me because I'm on this side. I'm winning. Nothing's happened in my life. Still putting food on my family's table. Yeah, it must be nice. And the thing I would stress to your audience is be very careful in your own life and start to notice when you say things like, I should have, or I have to. We use this language all the time. And really what we're doing is we're denying responsibility. It's a denial of responsibility language, and it just becomes very rote and habit-like, and we don't even consciously understand what we're doing. Because if you ask me, why did I do that? It's, oh, yeah, I had to. And so there's no cognition. It's just like, well, this is what I had to do. And when you take a step back, you realize that's never true. You always have a choice. I choose to give someone a citation because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Well, that's fine. At least you can acknowledge it was a choice. You didn't have to do anything. And so I would just stress people to focus on that. And that language is powerful, man.
Yeah. One last thing here, and this certainly a dynamic and roller coaster ride of a talk today, but that's fun. This is the quote. I'm trying to get Elisa to put it up. I don't know if we'll have time. There it is. Beautiful. Nice. Everyone, I'm going to read that for our people on audio. Stalin's and the Hitlers. So this guy Larkin Rose writes, Stalin's and the Hitlers. I'm scared of the thousands of millions of people that hallucinate them to be authority and so do their bidding and pay for their empires and carry out their orders. I don't care if there's one loony with a stupid mustache. He's no threat if the people do not believe in authority. It's a pretty heavy quote. I don't know who the guy is. Hopefully he's a good guy, but it's a good quote, and we got to remember that, and this isn't, I don't know, we could ramble on and talk about this stuff. You know what it comes down to? It comes down to the name of this fucking podcast. You got to know fear. And I'm going to move over here wrong way. I'm going to move over here to my sign on the wall here. For those of you watching, I've got my fuck fear on there. And sometimes I need to remind people that that's a acronym. It's an acronym. Fuck, F-U-C-K. I'm not being a crass American. It's the acronym for a very powerful formula. Face it, understand it, control it, and then you know it. At the end of the day, if you get a fear spike from anything in the world, if you face it, you're beginning to accept it. Now you need to do the research. How do I improve my critical thinking? What do I need to know about this next new stimulus? The control sometimes throws people off, and it's very, very subtle. Because I like to remind people there are lots of things in life that you need to do while scared. They're just dangerous. They're outside your comfort zone. So you need to manage the fear, hence the term fear management, right? You're not devoid of the fear. You didn't graduate and now you have no fear. There's getting to know fear, turning it into fuel, using it to empower you. Like Cus D'Amato said, the famous boxing coach, and paraphrasing, fear is your friend, he said, and it can warm your food and heat your house if you control it. But if it's out of control, it can burn your house down. It can kill you. So we need to control fear. And I inspire any of you. Elisa, do we have a link for the no fear? Can we stick it in or something here? Just a shameless plug. I got it here. Oh, it didn't populate next. There you guys go. Go get that. Go read the Making Friends with Fear and get the No Fear program. Get Joel's book, Ignite. Where can they buy this?
Amazon.
Amazon. Go to Amazon. Do you have an audio yet?
No, everybody's asking me for that. I'm gonna have
do
to
it. You got that. You got a good voice, man.
I got to devote some time to that because, people are asking for it. And I know there's a lot of people that are just strictly audio book learners only. So I do want to do that. It's just not, I want to launch First Responder Fathers first. And then once we get that going, then I'll spend some time doing that.
Okay, cool. Best way to reach you. Where should they follow you?
My phone number. No, I'm just kidding. On Instagram at Joel Evan Coaching and joelevancoaching.com. Those are probably the best two. I have my own podcast, The Joel Evan Show. You guys are, I interview a lot of alternative health practitioners and just a lot of, anything that I'm interested, which is, people like Tony coming on, talking about mindset, martial arts, mastery. For me, it's all about connecting with people that are doing something disruptive and that are going to help you become 1% better. If you just get 1% better every freaking day, man, imagine the compound effect of that. And so that is what I love to do.
Dig it. Dude, you're always welcome back. Keep me posted on what's happening. When you get that group going, I'd love to be a guest speaker and share some of the insights there and help.
I'm glad you said that because I was already planning that. You're definitely gonna pop in because I tell people this all the time, and it's again it's a simple quote from one of your old articles, The Economics of Violence, but it's so true. Like, guys don't understand, but like, if you want to be the leader for your family, you can't afford to be the victim of a crime because you will have so much PTSD and so much after trauma effect. It'll just wreck you. It'll absolutely wreck you. And so going along with that other guy's question about like, how should I stand or where should I be? Like, none of that matters because you've got to know how to protect yourself. And it's such a male skill that it's an everybody's skill, but as leaders of the family, it's your freaking duty to know how to protect yourself, bare minimum, at least some bare minimum protection. So you'll be jumping in there for sure.
Yeah. And during the, when the craziness started in 2020 and we didn't know, I was doing free talks to, fire departments and police departments because people were like, just the amount of stress was crazy. And all they were sharing with them was simple things to reframe the fear spike. Get control of their mind, because if you control your mind, control your breathing. If you improve your self-awareness, you improve your critical thinking. If you improve self-awareness and critical thinking, situational awareness is easier to decode. Guys, remember, everyone talks about, hey, head on a swivel, get left to bang, situational awareness, blah, blah, blah. If you don't have a direct connection to where you are as a human in your self-awareness, those external stimuli aren't going to register. They're not going to register like they need. You need to be in touch. And that is, emotionally, psychologically, and physically fit. Joel Evan, thank you so much for your time, dude. Hang on in the studio for a minute. Those of you who stayed with us for almost an hour and a half, thank you. Please like and share. And we'll see you soon at our next No Fear Live. And Elisa, thank you for your work in the background. Take care, everyone.